Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We are so excited to be here today talking all about Virgin Voyages. I think this is really fun, a fun topic, because I feel like there's a lot of our clients and people mover watching folks who maybe don't even know what Virgin Voyages is. So I feel like we're going to do I say we, I'm not doing much today other than being MC. These lovely agents who are here with us today are going to do most of the chatting, but we're going to introduce you to Virgin Voyages and why People Mover loves Virgin Voyages and why it might be a really great option for your next cruise. So I'm going to step away and let the team introduce themselves quickly. I'm Cheyenne in case for any reason you need to know that, but I'll let the rest of the team go.
I am Jason. I am the business director and one of the agents here at People Mover Travel.
Jordan. I'm another one of the agents on the team at People Mover Travel.
And I'm Stephanie, and I'm also one of our People Mover Travel agents.
All right. So, like I said, we're going to chat everything about Virgin Voyages today with the lovely team and I. So, here's a little bit about what we will be covering today, and then I'm going to let the gang jump right in. So, we're going to do a little introduction to Virgin Voyages and why that we think it's a great option and kind of how it differs from some other cruise lines. We're going to talk a little bit in the nitty-gritty about the ships, the destinations, and what a sailing aboard at Virgin Voyages includes. We're going to talk a little bit about the team's experience. All three of our lovely agents have actually sailed on Virgin Voyages before, so they have some personal experience that they're going to share with you today. And then we have some questions from the audience that we are going to answer at the end of today's video. Speaking of questions, if you have any questions while you're watching, there is a chat box, I think to this side of the screen, that you can go ahead and drop those questions in. And we have some team members who are live in that chat box who are going to answer those questions for you. So anything at all, comments, questions, pop them over there and we will get to answering those. So without further ado, we're going to start.
So I'm going to start off with why sail on Virgin Voyages. There's a lot. There's a lot of reasons. Virgin is very different than any other cruise line I've ever worked with, any other cruise line I've ever been on. But I'm going to specifically focus on the adults only aspect. So you have to be 18 or older to sail on a Virgin Voyages cruise. Here at PMT, we love our families. We book a lot of family vacations, but sometimes it's nice to have like an adult time away from kids. It's nice to have, just like a romantic getaway for two, or like a girls trip or a bachelor party. Or even when I went on my cruise, even though I went with one of our other agents and her husband, I was technically a solo sailor. So it was great even going just by myself. Virgin had solo sailor events. So I went to like solo sailor events and I met other solo sailors. It was a lot of fun, met a lot of fun, interesting people. But because they're adult only, they're also what they say exclusively adult. So everything on the ship is geared towards adults, from the entertainment to the food to the shore things, which is what they call the shore excursions. So everything is going to be to your liking.
I think that's a great overview, Jason. I definitely got that vibe when I went on my Virgin Voyages cruise. Like it just felt unlike any other cruise line I've ever been on. And I think as we break down some of the ships and destinations, it's also going to be pretty evident that they're just kind of like doing their own thing. And I think it's pretty cool. I'm going to be chatting real quick about the different ships that Virgin Voyages has in their fleet. As you can see from this list, it's actually pretty short, especially compared to some other cruise lines in the industry that have like 30 plus ships in their inventory. So it'll be a pretty quick little overview. Cheyenne has made this lovely slide that has them in a chronological order of launch date. So thank you for making my job so easy. So first they had the Scarlet Lady, and this one actually launched back in 2021. So this is a relatively young cruise line, only 3 years old at this point. So it was the first ship in the fleet. Their home port is out of Miami, Florida, which has a gorgeous embarkation point. Like their building is absolutely stunning. You absolutely have to Google it. It's a work of art in and of itself. The max capacity on this ship is 4,400 total passenger and crew. And just for reference, so like the largest largest cruise ship in the world right now is Royal Caribbean's Icon of the Seas, and that maxes at 7,600. So this is like a little more than half that total, and that is like a massive city on the ocean. So I feel like this is a very comfortable size. I felt like when I was on this ship, this is the ship I was on, by the way. I felt like it was a little smaller than some other cruise lines, but I felt like it was more intimate and way easier to navigate. So it was a very approachable size, especially if you're new to cruising. This could be like a good entry point for you in terms of like comfort and navigating a ship that's not too massively big. Some of their itineraries that they do on the Scarlet Lady, they do a little bit of everything. There's some Mediterranean, a lot of Caribbean, specifically itineraries that stop at their beach club in Bimini, Bahamas. Next up, we have the Valiant Lady, which launched shortly after in 2022. Their home port is Barcelona, Spain. So they do a lot of itineraries in Europe, but they do also transfer over to the Caribbean for a little bit of North American itineraries as well. Then we have the Resilient Lady, which just launched last year in 2023. Their home port is in Piraeus, I think is how you say it. It's in Greece. It's basically Athens. And they feature some really unique sailings in the Greece, like Greek islands, itineraries, Croatia, a lot of Mediterranean. But I believe they also go back over to North America too, a little bit. And then coming in 2025, we have the Brilliant Lady. And that one is actually going to have 4 different home ports, which is kind of like crazy to me. They've got Miami, New York, LA, and Seattle. And they're going to be covering more itineraries surrounding like actual North America rather than the Caribbean. So there's going to be like Pacific Northwest, California, Canada, some really unique itineraries. So I'm really excited to see what comes with that. So I dabbled in this a little bit in the last slide, but just to cover their different destinations. So they do focus a lot on Caribbean cruises. I mentioned their Bimini Beach Club, and that is kind of their like flagship private area where a lot of their Caribbean itineraries will stop. I thought the beach club at Bimini was super fun. The water was crystal clear, gorgeous blue. All of the food, and I think not all the drinks, but I feel like there was something included, right, Stephanie? Do you remember?
It was kind of like random drinks. There was like a kind of a welcome drink. Like they had a guy with like a bucket of beer when we got there, and they gave us that for free. And then I feel like there were kind of a couple other things throughout the day where they handed us like free drinks just kind of randomly. But the bar in general was paid. It was just like there were kind of like random things that they would do throughout the day.
Yeah, and it was all linked to your run a tab as well. So like it would just you would charge your wristband at the bar there, and then it would link back up to your account on the cruise ship. So some of the sample itineraries that I pulled just to highlight for the Caribbean destinations, they've got a 4-night fire and sunset soirees, which is what we did, and that stops in Key West and in Bimini. They also have a lot of other shorter itineraries that stop like one other point in the Caribbean, such as Puerto Plata, Dominican Republic, or Costa Maya, Mexico, and then we'll also stop in Bimini. So nice little shorter itineraries, but they also do have some longer sailings to the Eastern and Southern Caribbean as well that are like 7 to 8 days too. Then we have some North America sailings as well, which is primarily going to be covered by the Brilliant Lady once it launches next year. But they have some cool things like a 7-night LA to Cabo San Lucas that stops in Cabo, Mazatlan, and Puerto Vallarta. Then there's also going to be some longer itineraries that are like the 10-night Nautical Northeast, which is going to start in New York City, goes to Boston, Maine, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, and Quebec City. Definitely a very different feel than like the Caribbean beachy theme, but still very cool. We also have Europe, which we've talked a little bit about some of those itineraries. There's a lot focusing on the Mediterranean, like their 7-night French days in Ibiza nights, which stops in a lot of places. Buckle up. We've got Marseille, Cannes, Palma de Mallorca, and Ibiza. It's actually an overnight in Ibiza. And that's one interesting thing that Virgin Voyages does that I think is kind of unique to the industry, that they know that people don't want to get back on the cruise ship like midday to start going to the next place. So they highlight these extended stays. And so like Bimini, for example, they always have this like beach nighttime party, and it runs around sunset. So you actually don't have to be back on the ship till like 8 o'clock, maybe 9 o'clock. It was pretty late in the evening. And then for this Marseille option, or not Marseille, Ibiza, they actually stay overnight. So you get there one day, and then if you really wanted to, you could actually even like book one night at a hotel at like a fancy resort, and then get back on your cruise ship the next day. So kind of cool and unique. They do some other things as well in Europe though. So there's some Northern Europe itineraries out of Portsmouth, England, and they'll cover places like Amsterdam, Bordeaux, Reykjavik, Lisbon, all the way down to Casablanca in Morocco, like a lot of different things. One other thing they do as well that a lot of cruise lines do in this industry is like transatlantic and repositioning cruises. So if you're new to the cruising industry, this is basically like when one cruise ship moves ports for the season. So it could be something like going from they have like, for example, a 14-night San Juan to Barcelona. And so it's 2 whole weeks on the cruise ship, and you stop at a bunch of different places. You start in one area and end up in another continent. Another example is their 16-night Rome to Miami. But it's so interesting. If you look at Virgin Voyages website, they have so many different cruise itineraries, like 4 ships total, one of them not even sailing yet. And they have like 20 plus itineraries going at any given time. So they're bopping these ships all around. So it's a really good opportunity to do a repositioning cruise if it's something that you've ever considered doing, if you've got an abundance of time on your hands and need a long vacation like we all do.
Well, I also feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, their sailings are like really fun and themed. They all have like these fun different names, and they're like different vibes of all these different sailings. And every time I'm booking or quoting it for a client, I'm like, these are so fun. Like whoever coming up with these names is having a good time.
So much more interesting. Like that fire and sunset soirees, like I was sold.
Yeah, it sounded great.
So I know when it comes to cruises, everybody's first question, if you've never cruised before, or if you have and you're looking at a different cruise line, is what's included. Because, if you look at a cruise fare, sometimes it can seem a little bit expensive right up front. But, typically with a cruise, you're paying for your accommodation, your transportation, and pretty much food, like all your meals and stuff like that. So one thing that Virgin kind of touts themselves for is being pretty close to all inclusive. So they include all of your like regular meals. There are kind of a handful of things like little tastings and things that are an extra cost, but all of your dinners, anything when you go to their food, like for all of those meals are going to be included. Soft drinks and water, including water that they deliver to your stateroom, and that can be both still or sparkling. So I am a sparkling water addict, and my mom hates sparkling water. So that was really cool. In our room, we were able to have both, and they would just bring it to us, and you could keep it in your fridge. So, when you get back from dinner and you had a couple drinks and you're so thirsty, like it's there waiting for you. Most cruise lines wouldn't include soft drinks. You would have to pay for those or do some kind of beverage package add-on. A couple other cool things that Virgin includes that other cruise lines would be Wi-Fi. Your gratuities are going to be, they're included, but not really, because they pay their crew a living wage. So they don't actually pay them gratuities at all. That's like one of the Virgin pillars. You get fitness classes included in your fare, and then you can also make changes up to 45 days prior to your departure for free, which is definitely not an industry standard. So that's like there's a lot of flexibility with Virgin that I thought was really nice to have.
What is really cool about that is when I went on mine, I almost, and it's my fault I didn't, I almost ate at every single restaurant on the ship. There's no like specialty dining that they charge extra for.
Yeah.
I got to try a sample of everything, and they had all different kinds of food. I absolutely loved all of the restaurants on the ship.
Yeah, I think that's a really cool thing about Virgin compared to, and this kind of transitions into what we're talking about with our experiences, but like Virgin doesn't have a main dining room the way that a traditional cruise line would. You basically get to pick a restaurant every night. I think depending on the ship, there's like 9 different restaurants. And you get to pick which one you want to dine at each night. And so there's like an Italian restaurant and a Korean restaurant and like all of these other options. So you can try something totally different every night, and you're not like stuck at the same table every night, or like the way that traditional cruise lines tend to be. And I think that was definitely one of my favorite things too.
I know, like I said, I haven't been aboard, but is there anything else that you guys experienced aboard that you thought was just worth sharing? I think most of you, all three of you have been on other cruise lines as well. So anything that you noticed that was different or just your overall experience that you want to share?
I think another good thing to mention is that Virgin doesn't do traditional drink packages. So you don't have the option to add like an all-inclusive drink package for like alcoholic beverages. They have a drink, like a bar tab, and sometimes they do promotions where they'll kind of like, if you prepay your bar tab, they'll kick back a little bit extra for you. So there's kind of like an incentive to prepay if you think, if you're on a 7-day cruise and you think that you'll spend $350 at the bar, spoiler, it's not hard. But they will kind of kick you another $50 or something.
That was something I really liked about going on this Virgin cruise was that, it's premium beverages as well. So it's not just alcoholic beverages. So like for me, I have to have a latte every day, and sometimes twice a day. So that's all included in their premium coffee shop as well. If you want more than just like the basic drip coffee or tea that's included with the standard drinks. But it's also nice too. Like for me, for example, like with the other cruise lines, I almost never get the premium drink package because if you do the math on it, you have to spend like $50 a day basically on alcoholic beverages. And I personally just don't drink that much. And that's fine if you do, but it's just not worth it for me. And they also make you book it for everyone in your room category so that you can't like divvy it up. And with this Virgin bar tab thing, it's actually for like the whole room. So like you can share it with whoever is in your room. So $350 for me and my husband was like, we went through it fast. We ended up spending more. And we did do the opt-in for the free amount, which was great. So highly recommend. I love it.
Yeah, and but like the drink prices on Virgin are really, really reasonable. Some cruise lines are kind of notorious for marking up their drinks so that they kind of incentivize that all-inclusive package. But I think like a bar on Virgin goes for like $5 or $6 a beer. I mean, did I say bar? A beer goes for like $5 or $6, which is like fairly reasonable. And then like when you get into premium mixed drinks, they start at like 10 or 12, and then they kind of go up from there depending on, if you're like Jordan and I drinking more premium beverages on the ship.
Yes.
Those get a little pricey, but yeah, so it's not like you're going to be paying for every drink and also getting like really gouged on the prices, which is nice.
I know you already mentioned it, but the free Wi-Fi.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
I was just on another cruise and I was floored by how expensive the Wi-Fi was. But when I was on Virgin, I mean, I took full advantage of it. It was, and it worked so well throughout
It
the
was good
entire.
Wi-Fi. It was free and
Yeah,
it was good.
you're
Yeah.
out in the middle of nowhere, and it worked. It worked just like my Wi-Fi at home. It was fantastic.
I think overall, like the vibe I get from Virgin is it's people who've been on other cruises who knew what mistakes to change, and they're like coming at cruising with like a really modern take, and they're like, why is Wi-Fi $1 million on a cruise ship and you can't open Google? So they're like trying
Right.
to solve these problems.
Yeah. Yep. I think they listened to people's pain points, or they had their own pain points from cruising, and they were like, how can we fix that? And like, honestly, they're not really hard things to fix. Like Wi-Fi at this point, I feel like is a basic human right. So like, let's give the people Wi-Fi.
One other thing I just wanted to mention really quick about Virgin that I love, and then we can move on, I promise. But I love all of the sustainability efforts that they do as well. So I think that you can find information on their website about it, but they do a lot to offset their carbon footprint. And it's kind of scary if you think about the cruising industry, like these giant ships, what kind of impact they're having on the environment. And Virgin is like, hey, we're going to do everything we can to offset this. And so like while you're on the ship, they always encourage you to have like the reusable water bottles, which is definitely something that you should bring with you on all vacations anyway. But like all of the food is brought out in like these metal, like reusable tins and things like that. Like they are minimizing waste. All of the balcony staterooms have hammocks on them that are made out of recycled materials. And it feels like every time you turn a corner, they're like, here's something cool we're doing for the environment. And I just love that.
No water bottles on board. They bring you your water in these like pitchers, and there's like glasses, and they'll bring you ice. I don't think
Yeah.
there were straws on board at all either. I feel like we had to drink out of glasses. So like real drinking.
I feel like they were paper straws, maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
I know they talk about how they don't do any buffets, so that cuts down on food waste incredibly. They still have like what they call the galley. So you just sit down, they have a little menu, you order, they have a little flag on the menu, raise the flag, someone will come and take your order. And the food is still incredibly delicious and it gets to you incredibly fast. I feel like I never waited more than like 5 minutes for anything I ordered. It seems top to bottom, as they were building this cruise line, sustainability was at the center of it all.
I would never even think about buffets. What a huge food waste. And that's something that is on every cruise line ever. We had some questions from our audience space that I think we're going to cover, maybe a few topics that we didn't get to in the slideshow. So we are going to run through some of these questions. And like I said, if you have any other questions while you guys are watching, put them in the chat box and we'll have an agent answer them. But the first question, which is very common with all cruise lines, and I think Virgin does a really good job of offering really great discounts. But the question was, does Virgin Voyage offer any kind of booking incentives or discounted cruises? Stephanie.
Yes. So basically the answer is yes, always. There's always some kind of promotion going on. I know I got a couple emails just this week from them with a couple different promos that they're running. So just to give you an idea of what might be happening depending on when you're looking. But like right now they're doing itineraries with rates as low as $150 per person per night, or 75% off or 70% off a second sailor for certain 2025, 2026 itineraries. They also often run things like the extra bar tab promotion, where if you prepay your bar tab, they'll kick you back a little bit of extra. And they also offer a 5% additional discount if you pay your cruise in full. So when you book it, if you paid in full, you get an additional discount, which is nice if you have that kind of flexibility in your budget. So yeah, I mean, basically there's always some cool promotion that they're doing and that we can help you book, because they really do, like, honestly, for everything they offer, the prices tend to be really, really good. They're always offering like really good deals.
Okay, so we had a couple questions. I'm going to kind of merge into one about shore excursions, which I've been told are called shore things. Does Virgin Voyages have shore excursions? Would your people mover travel agent help in booking those? And then when can you book those in addition to onboard activities, specialty reservations, things like that? So I think Jordan's going to touch on this one for us. I threw a lot of questions at you. It was like 5 questions in one.
Ready. Here we go. Yes, you're absolutely right. They're called shore things. I feel like Virgin has this whole like branding lingo within their cruises, and you'll definitely catch on very quickly as you go through the process. But of course, I mean, it's like, you know, Virgin Records, Richard Branson, they've got to be cool about it. So they can't just call them shore excursions. Yes, shore things definitely happen in every port. You can even do them in your embarkation port as well if you've got some extra time during the day, which is pretty cool. You can start booking them 120 days prior to your sailing embarkation date. And if you're booked in the Rockstar concierge level, then you can do it even earlier at 135 days. Your travel agent would love to help you book those shore excursions. I feel like with being a newer modern company, Virgin has identified that travel agents need a really easy way to assist their clients, and they've made it like super duper easy to book it within the travel agent portal, which I love. It makes my life easy. It makes your life easy. We're here to help you when we can. And something that I think is unique about Virgin as well is that they actually compensate travel agents for doing these shore excursion bookings, which is not necessarily the norm. I think it's, you know, it's important if you're doing a job to get compensated for it. And so it's just a nice little touch to have suppliers that are keeping travel agents in mind. And that way everybody wins. In addition to the shore excursions, yes, there are a lot of onboard activities and restaurant reservations and things that you can make. So starting, I guess, working kind of chronologically, after you hit that 120-day mark, you would have 45 days prior to sailing. You can start making your onboard dining reservations. And that's actually something your travel agent can do in the agent portal for you as well, which is great. And then, and if you are staying in the concierge level, it's actually 60 days. So you get like a little extra window perk to access those ahead of time. And something interesting about the dining reservations is actually, like, especially if you're on a shorter itinerary, they will only let you book each restaurant one time. But if you're on a longer itinerary that has like more days than the number of restaurants, then I think they will let you book it a second time, but you have to wait a certain amount of time between those reservation dates. So you can't just camp out at the Italian restaurant the whole time, even though it's delicious. Once you get on your ship, then that is when you can actually start booking your onboard activities and spa appointments, things like the tattoo parlor, which seems like kind of an awful idea on a ship that's like rocking to get a tattoo, but who knows? Maybe it works out okay. You try it and you let me know. So I always encourage people to do their check-in for their cruise as early as possible because it assigns you a boarding time, and the earlier the boarding time you get, the earlier you get on the ship. And that means that you can start booking things like yoga classes and I don't know, all the different entertainment things, which can book up pretty quickly, especially the yoga classes. Like the sunrise yoga, I feel like was gone every single day of our cruise. So
Yeah, they were impossible to get into. All of those early morning fitness things, like they were so popular, everybody wanted to do them.
and I know I threw a lot of milestones at you, but that's why you're using a travel agent, right? To keep track of all of these things for you.
This next question, I know we touched on a little bit, but want to see if there was any more thoughts. What stood out to you while sailing aboard Virgin Voyages as being different from other cruise lines you've been on? Jason, any extra thoughts?
So something that really stood out to me while I was on my cruise was really just sort of generally how progressive Virgin Voyages is. Like I said, we already mentioned a bunch of different things that they do compared to a lot of other cruise lines, but I think they're very welcoming to like the LGBTQ plus community. It felt like a very positive, inclusive cruise. Not to say that other cruise lines aren't, but this one they're proud of it. They're like they have drag shows on board. So that was something that I was very happy to support Virgin because of that. We did already touch on like the sustainability efforts quite a bit, but there are a couple other things I wanted to mention. So this is the band, what they call it, and it's your wristband that you wear, and it gets you into your room. You can use it to charge, but for every single band that they make, they pull 2 pounds of plastic out of the ocean. So that's again, I felt good about going on this cruise with the Virgin Voyages.
Well, thing about those bands too is that I mean they're very comfortable. They're waterproof though, so you can like wear them in the pool, in the ocean, in the shower. And you can actually like take them off. So it's not like if you go to an all-inclusive resort with those like crappy plastic bands with like the snaps that have to stay on your wrist. Like if you really want to take it off, you can. But then you run the risk of losing it. So that's your
Yeah.
own call. But
Yeah,
it's
just got
very
this.
flexible.
Right.
And it's good that they're waterproof because at Bimini, they have a swim up bar, and we definitely take advantage of that swim up bar. So have your band so you can charge that.
On the Virgin Voyages website, they have a 45-page document that outlines all of their sustainability efforts. So I think I'm just going to put a link to that down below because I'm not going to go through all 45 pages of it. But yeah, I just like I said, I felt good about being on the Virgin Voyages cruise. It was just a very positive, welcoming experience.
It seems like they're making steps that they didn't have to make, but they should be making, and all cruise lines should be making, Last question, which we haven't touched on at all, but I think is a great segue, is what kind of entertainment is offered? Obviously, when you're on a cruise ship, that's a really big part of your day, of all the entertainment that's offered. So Stephanie, do you have any insights on what was going on during the day and the evening?
There's so much to do on a Virgin ship. And I think that's true of all cruise lines, but Virgin definitely kind of like bumps it up another notch. So they have, in the evening, they have shows that include like dancing, modern retellings that are kind of like these fun takes on stories like Persephone and Hades, as well as like Romeo and Juliet, depending on which ship you're on. There's kind of different offerings, which is also cool that even if you cruise with Virgin more than once, you're probably not going to see the same shows. So you get to some variety in your entertainment. They have a nightclub called The Manor that has these really cool lights, and everybody takes their picture in front of them because they're just like very photographable. And they do what they call Scarlet Night on every cruise, where everybody dresses up in red, like all of us have. And it's like a big party night. There's like a champagne, like free champagne on one of the decks. And it was really fun. And I know the Manor probably gets very hopping on that night. There's also karaoke on board, which we took advantage of, and we had a really good time. And our agent Jordan here is a lovely singer, so that was great, very fun. If you don't mind spending a little bit of extra money on your cruise, there's also a casino as well as an arcade, and they have pop-up performances as well, depending like where, like all across the ship during the day and the evening. They do these like little like random like pop-up events where they have like the drag queens will be out, or whatever other performers might be out just like doing some fun stuff. There's also a really cool area on the ship where they have like board games and like the collection of board games. It wasn't just like, Monopoly and Sorry. It was like all kinds of different board games, like a pretty in-depth collection. And it seems like they take pretty good care of them. So like it's actually the full set of everything as well. So you could actually play the game.
We talk about how Pretty Princess was among that collection.
Yes, because
that
who
was
doesn't want
drawn
to play
from the
that?
depths of my childhood. I loved
Right?
it.
Like,
And it's
what
an
a good
adult-only
game.
cruise, mind you. Like they know their audience. They understood the
They were like,
assignment.
these 90s kids, they need to play some Pretty Princess while having a couple cocktails. Like that sounds like a great time. Yeah, they had, I think there was also like an air hockey table or something in that area, maybe like a foosball table, like in that kind of ice cream area. But yeah, there's like always a million things going on. There's trivia, there's kind of, all the classic cruise line staples of like different games going on. So yeah, I mean, if you're bored on a Virgin Voyages ship, you're kind of doing something wrong because there's like usually a pool party going on or just like literally there's always something. So if you can't find something, look harder.
This is my own question, but I feel like it will lend very well. But I would assume that they have like an app that has all the schedule. Do they still do the paper schedules? Yep. I would assume they're against paper schedules.
Yeah, everything's in their apps, and you can like kind of make a custom itinerary. So when you're in the app, you can add things. So like the things that require reservations, you would go in and make reservations, but not everything does, but you can still add them to your itinerary for the day. So you know that like if you have a dinner reservation at 9, you can do all of these other things and not miss or double book yourself. So yeah, it's really like cool to see it all visually laid out. Definitely keep that app ready to go.
Really easy to link up with other people too. So like my reservation was separate from Stephanie's, and we were able to like friend request each other so that we could make dinner reservations together, because you have to like list each person on the reservation for each one, and it was super easy to do.
Before we move on to our last slide, we have to know, Jordan, what karaoke song did you sing?
Oh man.
What didn't she sing?
What did I not sing? I definitely remember doing Let It Go that night, and that I think was wonderful. I don't know. I have a playlist on my phone of like go-to karaoke songs to practice in the car. And lately I've been really feeling Any Man of Mine by Shania Twain. So if you're feeling a little country pop karaoke night, you know who to call.
There was a lot of Disney, not surprising given that we're all Disney nerds, but we sang a lot of Disney. There was like some Aladdin. There was some, I think Hercules maybe, because I know we have some Hercules fans in the group. It was fun. It was a fun night.
All right. Well, we wanted to just wrap up today. I think this was such a great introduction, even to me, who's never been on a Virgin Voyage. I loved learning more about it and hearing you guys' experience and answering all the questions. I think that was so fun. So we just wanted to wrap up this presentation just with a little bit of next steps. If you are interested in sailing on Virgin Voyages, or if you're interested on sailing on any cruise or any type of trip, we book trips all over the world. I'm sure if you're here watching People Mover video, then you know a little bit about us. But if you're interested in submitting a quote request and getting into touch with one of our agents, I put a lovely QR code on the screen. You can also just head to the website, which I also put on the screen. Very informative. The screen's ready to go. You can see it all. And we also love to put out YouTube videos. This is kind of a newer avenue for us, but I think we're all having a lot of fun recording these and getting them up and being able to chat with you guys. So we thank you so much. I'm going to get out of this screen so you can see all of our faces. Uno momento. There we are. So thank you again so much for watching. I'll let everyone give a little goodbye wave, but if you want to keep on top of all the videos that we put out, make sure you subscribe to our channel, which sounds really weird for me to say because I'm not a YouTuber at all, but you know, we're here making fun content for you guys. So thank you so much, and we'll see you next time. Bye.